Well, this is a special edition of KC Sports Tonight because, hey, we got former Chiefs linebacker Dezman Moses in the house, which also means football season is right around the corner if we're bringing in the big guns. So, Des, let's talk some training camp. And before we get into all the storylines surrounding this year's team, as someone who practiced in St. Joe for Andy Reid, you spent a number of months over your career in that heat at Missouri Western. What's it like as a player at training camp?
Man, I think I got a little PTSD, man. I was there just this Monday. You know, it's hot, it's humid. You're staying in these college dorms. You're fighting with your brothers day in and day out, long practices. Thank God for these guys. They don't have to go through the two-a-days like they did back in the day, but it's still a grind. This is where you create those bonds. You hone in on your skill set. You create relationships with the coaches as well, the staff. Who's going to be around to help you? But all in, all out, you got to go out there, perform each and every day, because for a lot of these guys, it's going to be the deal breaker whether or not they're a Kansas City Chief or not this year.
So what are your favorite training camp memories, or maybe not favorite, what are just the memories that stand out from your time in St. Joe?
You know, I have a few. You know, being back on the college campus, you know, it's like the purest form of football. You know, it reminds us of college. We're sleeping in those little tiny beds.
Little twin beds,
You got your feet hanging off. You might have to put a couple together. But again, that camaraderie. You going into a dorm setting with your teammates, with your guys right next door. You know, you're messing with your teammates. But this is where you form those bonds, where teams become close and where they start the championship run.
You say messing with your teammates. Were you pulling some pranks? Guys pulling pranks on you? Who are those jokesters in your day?
Yeah, Frank Zombel, he was one of those jokesters. Anthony Sherman. You know, these are the guys that.
The Shermanator.
Sherman. He had a little extra time. You know, fullbacks, they got a tough practice, but they got a little extra time. The kickers.
Sausage. Okay. Special teams, right?
Those are the guys you got to keep your eye on because they have a little extra time. They sneak into those dorm rooms. Before you know it, you're like Patrick Mahomes. You got a cricket, man, in your vent. Beeping all night.
That was great. So, now those are maybe some of the jokesters from your time. But when you think of camp, were there any stars that really shine bright in those morning practices where maybe some guys were groggy, getting a rough night's sleep on the twin bed, but when the practice hit, you're like, this guy's a star?
Yeah, 100%. And a lot of those guys tend to be the undrafted, the late round draft picks. Guys like myself, I was an undrafted free agent, had the opportunity to go into camp in Green Bay. Every single day mattered. Those practices were my opportunity to show, hey, not only the coaching staff, the front office, but my teammates. I'm a serious player. I'm not only just a college guy. I'm not an undrafted guy. I'm a professional. So you got to come out there, perform each and every day just like one, and you'll earn that.
Do you feed off the fan energy? Because during the season, you practice, but it's just in front of your guys. But in St. Joe, you're practicing in front of, thousands of fans.
You form those same bonds. You know, these fans, thank God for them. They're loyal. They're out there every single day. So when you wake up, you're having maybe a crappy day, not the best day, you see these same fans, those kids, those faces, and the passion. You understand the sacrifice it took for them to get there, whether it was just that morning, whether it was financially. And sometimes it changes your day. But generally, you get to form some bonds with them, sign some autographs. These guys and gals are the people that motivate these guys day in and day out when it gets really, really difficult, because it does. It's 90-plus degrees every single day, 30-plus pounds of equipment on, and you're going out there hitting guys. It's not that fun sometimes.
Now, as someone who's had camp for both the Packers and the Chiefs, what stood out about specifically an Andy Reid training camp? Yeah,
they put that label on there for a reason. Andy Reid, he's a football guru. This guy loves to practice. He loves to get reps. So in order to do both, it takes time. So it's a grind. You know, from the minute you get out there, Andy has practice scripted from warm-up to walk through, making sure his guys are getting the mental data logged in, and then going out and getting that physical fitness that it takes to be a football in the National Football League. It's not easy. So you have to train your body. You got to hone it in, not only physically, but spiritually. I think there's an awakening that guys have to have. When you hit it, you say, man, this is tough. And I had that moment as a rookie. I'm like, man, am I built for this? And that's when I looked to my brothers. They lifted you up because we're all feeling that same way. They lift you up, and that's what forms that team, that bond. And for Kansas City, they've been doing it right for a while, 2 times, back to back.
Yeah. Any specific Chiefs training camp moment that you had, either good or bad, where you, hey, I just picked off Alex Smith, or, oh, I just got beat by Travis Kelce? Anything stand out?
You know what? Each and every camp for me was special. I think my second one here was pretty cool. You know, I came in with a guy named Travis Kelce. He's still playing a little bit of football. But, you know, he didn't have the most successful first season. He battled injury, as was I, coming off a toe injury. So we got to really rehab. We got to become professionals off the field.
Sure.
which for us, once we got out there, we were always rooting for each other, even though we were going against each other. So that's one of my favorite memories, again, forming those bonds. It's weird, man, because as outside linebackers, you're generally going against tight ends, but you guys become brothers over time. Iron sharpen iron.
That's what it's all about right there. Now, fans are always going to be watching number 87 when he's at training camp. But outside of El Travador rocking the training camp mustache right now, outside of that, what should fans really keep their eye on when they're going up to St. Joe and watching these morning practices?
You know what? I think this wide receiver core, we harped on them last year. We might even beat them down a little bit, but all in all, they answered the bell. When you win a Super Bowl, generally, some of the criticism has to quiet down. But for this group, for Brett Veach, Andy Reid, and this staff, they've revamped. They've improved. For a back-to-back Super Bowl champ to improve on offense is generally tough because you lose weapons. Guys want to get paid. They found a way to go out in the market, find exactly what they need. Deep ball threats, consistency, guys with speed, guys that fit this offense, fit the mold. And then they got another backup tight end that just happens to look like number 87 himself.
He's got a great first name, if we're being honest. Shout out Jared Wiley for the uninitiated. What's it like, speaking on the wide receivers as a whole, what do you watch for out of wide receiver, getting that timing down, that consistent reps from training camp specifically?
It's about the energy. You want to see for these wide receivers how they catch the balls, not only in traffic, but how they catch them deep. Because these are the tough passes. And a lot of times for wide receivers, it's on air. Us as defenders, we want to hit these guys. We want to go and, put a couple. But we can't. So there's a limit of physicality that they can receive, which makes their job a little bit difficult. Because you have to try to get these really, really valid reps, really good reps in training camp, but then go out there on Sundays, you're going to get your head knocked off and still be able to complete those catches. That's what makes these guys good. It's all about finish on the sideline, to the ground, in the end zone. You got to finish as a wide receiver, and we got a couple great finishers.
Yeah, I think we're seeing that. So let's put some names on it. Xavier Worthy, the rookie first-round pick out of Texas. Hollywood Brown, the new free agent. Rashee Rice, now in his second year. I'd say those are the top three wideouts, but you throw in Justin Watson, Kadarius Toney, who's also battling injuries, of course. Sky Moore, Justin Ross, Nico Remigio. Out of that, McCole Hardman, who caught the game-winning touchdown in the Super Bowl. Out of all those wide receivers, who's kind of standing out to you here at camp so far?
I love all of these guys, man, but Nico Remigio is a guy that I've seen some film throughout camp, throughout practice. He's just going about his business, man. He gets in and out of routes sharply. He catches the ball with strong hands. Obviously won't be a starter, maybe necessarily day one for Kansas City, but keep an eye on him for depth. I like these guys, and I always look out for my undrafted late round picks because these guys are good football players. Don't get it confused. These guys that are drafted late, they care about the craft and they work hard. But obviously, I want to speak on the elephant in the room. You got some young guns, Xavier Worthy and Hollywood Brown, he's one of those guys who can stretch a defense, has the same type of impact as a Tyreek, not nearly as dominant, but you don't need that. You got a Travis Kelce. You got a Rashee Rice underneath, but this guy can stretch the field. And if you don't respect him, he'll beat you.
How impressive is it early on? Because these are newcomers for Mahomes. They're in their first season, and they're throwing the ball deep a lot, Dezman, and they're hauling it in. It's one thing to, have your timing right on a curl, on a slant, but to be connecting on 50-yard bombs, what does that say about Xavier Worthy and Hollywood Brown?
These guys are talented ball catchers because that's not something you do overnight. For the fans watching, I want you to go in your backyard, have your buddy throw a ball as high as he can, turn your back to it, and try to catch it over your shoulder. That's the equivalency of what these guys are doing while running full speed and a guy like myself trying to knock his head off. It's not easy. Yes, we like them to do it. They get paid to do it. But at the same time, it is a skill set that we have now, not one, but two, maybe three guys that really have this ability. And that also gives you the ability to transition them and change them in and out. They're interchangeable, so you don't know who's doing what on what particular play. So for a defense, that makes our job much more difficult. Kansas City has weapons, and they got the number one puppeteer, if you will, in Andy Reid. I'm excited to see what he'll do with these guys.
And hey, it's one thing to have the talent, it's another thing to actually catch the ball. Something they struggled at last year, and early signs are, for the most part, they're at least catching the ball at a better rate than last year. Dezman, if you want to throw deep balls, well, you need a few seconds to protect.
Absolutely.
All right? And that brings us to the position battle at left tackle. Kingsley Suamataia, the second-round pick out of BYU, looking like he's got the leg up in training camp. How important is that left tackle position, and what are you looking for in that position battle at camp right now?
I mean, left tackle is always important, right? You got to protect your quarterback's blind side. But these guys going at it, it actually is it's a gift for Kansas City. It's a gift for this team because competition creates improvement. These guys are going to go out there honing on their craft, honing on their skill sets, and they know this is one of the most important jobs in the National Football, believe it or not. When you're protecting the backside of QB1, the young GOAT, the kid, Patrick Mahomes, you got to be on point. You got to do your job. Not only is he depending on you, but the city is for a long time.
Speaking on Kingsley, but rookies as a whole, how tough is a training camp for a rookie when you're trying to make a great first impression and dealing with life as an NFL player for the first time?
It's tough. It's grueling. It's a grind. But I will say offensive linemen, that particular group, they generally bond together a little more than everybody else. You know, there's a lot of communication. They eat together. They're lockered up together. You see these guys, you know, walking around campus like elephants together. There's a bond that happens, a cohesiveness that takes place, especially during this time. So I think these guys will come together, whether they need to lift this brother up, whether they need to give him a little extra tips here and there. That's exactly what they'll do. They'll get him ready to go, and if he's not quite ready to go, he'll have a quality backup. He'll have a quality starter in this deal. And that's the beauty of having that competition. If one guy's not ready, another guy step up until he gets there.
Well, another competition is at the cornerback position. We know Kansas City's #1 corner is Trent McDuffie, but after that, it's pretty wide open. We got Joshua Williams, Najee Johnson returning from injury, Jalen Watson returning from injury. What do you want to see out of this cornerback group? They're going up against some speedy wide receivers that are really testing them right now. What do you watch for out of the corner position at training camp?
Well, these guys have to step up. You know, there's another elephant in the room, guy named L'Jarius Sneed, man, departed from Kansas City, but was a phenomenal talent. Guy could play in coverage. He played physical. He could tackle. So these guys, you don't need one guy to come in and substitute for him, but you do need a couple guys that can come in, play their role, play at a high level, play physical, because that will be a part and element to this Kansas City defense that's missing, but I think they can fill it. And Jalen Watson's my guy who I think will be that guy to do it. He has good size. He has good experience. This guy's a Super Bowl winner. I mean, he's been in the playoffs. And then I seen him the other day at training camp. He got a little chip on his shoulder. He was out. He was doing some rehab, but he got a chip on his shoulder. Guy worked off to the side furiously for hours while these guys were practicing and didn't waver. That's the type of energy you got to have as a corner, because you're out there on the island. You got to be willing to work, whether things are good, bad, or indifferent. And I think he got that dog in him.
You got to be mentally tough
to be a corner,
tough, especially when you're going up against an offense every day that you're going to get beat, and that doesn't mean you're not a good corner. That's just life in the NFL.
That's it, man. You playing against some of the best players in the entire world. And I'll tell a quick story, because I had a welcome to the NFL type moment. Man, I'm covering Jermichael Finley. You know, I'm step for step on his hip, and Aaron Rodgers threads one in. You know, I look over at Kevin Green, and I'm like, Coach, he's like, hey, he says, that's Aaron Rodgers to Jermichael Finley. Those are the two top players in the league. You did your job, son. That's what they do, too.
I'm sure there's many of those moments when you've got Patrick Mahomes throwing to Travis Kelce or anyone up there.
Just do your job.
Training camp now, it's a grind, but we also have a preseason to look forward to, and that's now just around the corner. Once they transition from the morning practices to the bright lights, where you've got 90 players wanting to get on the field, what do you watch for out of this Chiefs team for the preseason?
Yeah, for the preseason, it's about getting those young guys reps. You know, a lot of these veterans, they'll be off to the side. They'll be in the civvies, resting up, getting ready for week one. But for these young guys, again, it gets back to the opportunity. If you're a late-round pick, a guy that's on a bubble, a special teams guy, maybe a backup, this is your opportunity to go out there and show not only your team, but your city, hey, I'm a pro. And then if they're not watching, trust and believe there's 31 other teams that need good players. So this is your if you will, your opportunity to go out there and show what you have, put the film together, and be a pro.
It's important times, even if the win-loss record of the preseason doesn't mean a whole lot. They're important reps as we get ready for the season. So, Dezman, here in the heart of summer, let's look ahead to the boys of fall in this football season. What are your expectations for this Chiefs team once they kick off meaningful football September 5th against the Ravens.
I mean, back-to-back Super Bowl champions. I'm not one to hop on a bandwagon or one to say, these titles, labels matter. But you're talking about a team that's building a dynasty right now. Not only do they understand it, but they embrace it. Kansas City wants to be those front runners, wants to be those lead dogs, and that's exactly what they are. I think this offseason proves it. They went out and used it as an opportunity to get better in every single way, especially where they need it. Helped their QB1. They got them some additional weapons, some guys that can run, open it up. Andy Reid's going to have a field day with these guys. I don't know exactly who could stop all of these weapons, but the only team that I can say may have had a better or equal offseason might be the Houston Texans.
Yep, they're a contender, and I think the Chiefs saw their offensive struggles last year and said, listen, when we've got Patrick Mahomes, Andy Reid, and Travis Kelce, that's unacceptable to struggle to the degree that they did. They were carried by their defense to that Super Bowl, and come playoff time, well, the stars were the stars. But they know that this year that has to change. But at this time last year, Dezman, I don't think we were particularly worried about the receiving core of the offense. We didn't see that coming. So I ask now, is there anything that does worry you looking forward, or right now in the heart of summer, is it all sunshine and rainbows?
Yeah, I would say the back seven depth on defense is my one thing. We got 3 linebackers that we really like. These guys have the experience, but after those guys, there's not very much, which always, this is a war of attrition in the National Football League. It's tough to go through 17 games battling. You need guys that can replace guys at a very high level. Little concern there, little on the back end. You got some really quality starters, but again, you got to have that depth, especially to go deep into the season, especially to make playoffs run, and especially when you're trying to go from back to back to back.
Well, listen, if anyone goes down, they need linebacker depth. You feeling ready? I mean, you ready to go?
Let me talk to my doctor. I'm going to have to consult with him first.
Sign Dezman up. So I'll be the water boy. I'll be Dezman's specific water boy. I'm not above that. Either way, we are excited for Chiefs football season here at KCTV 5 with Dezman Moses rocking with us every step of the way.